Okay, and we're back. The nut that I was installing was bottoming out on the threads, and when I took it back out, you can see there's still some shoulder exposed on that spacer even after the O-ring is in there. There's no opening on the threads of the bolt. Not sure if you can focus on that or not, to go over that shoulder. And the bags are clearly labeled S and D, single and double row. So the only thing that I can think, and it's worth a call to Pelican on Monday, is that the spacer, the thicker spacer that's in the double row bearing, should be in the single row bearing bag, and that we have an improperly bagged spacer. That's really the only thing that it can be, because that the covers on the double row bearings on these engines aren't as recessed in. That's why you can tell just by looking at it with how far this stud is recessed back in there. Will tell you pretty much whether you have a single or dual row bearing. So we're going to carefully get this back out and show you the difference between the two. You have this little one. This was in the single row bearing, but the single row bearing has a deeper cavity. Would think that it would take the thicker spacer, and that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I will confirm that with Pelican Parts come Monday. This being Sunday, they're probably not open. So back to this, we put the spacer in on the outside, followed by the O-ring, which will seat down in that concave section. Then we will thread the 12-point nut on until it starts to turn. The inner race and we can, I imagine, get it a little more seated. And we're going to have to figure out a way to torque that down. Spec on that, 24 foot-pounds. Of course, we're going to convert that to inch-pounds, so 240 plus 24, 264. Which is about the limit of this torque wrench. But again, we have to find something that will 53, 56, 59. That will hold that center nut in place while we torque. So, I just realized I torqued the 3 outer bolts with an extension on. I'm sure people's heads are going to be spinning about that. Okay, we got that pretty much horizontal. And click, tighten to spec. So there you have it. That is, we've installed the IMS bearing on a Porsche Boxster 2.7 liter engine, 2002 model, using nothing but basic tools that most do-it-yourselfers would have available to them. Obviously, making the locks is a little more involved. You would need a grinder, some way of cutting metal, and so forth. So our next step would be to, of course, reinstall the tensioners, 3 of them. You got one here, one under here, and one over on the other side. For those tensioners, I did purchase new sealing rings as well as new O-rings. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with that, and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. I'm going to film one of these and then probably just go about and do the remainder of them off camera, because it's all the same thing. All we're doing is taking the chain tensioners. There's 3 of them on a 5-chain engine. There's actually 5 of them, but the other 2 are internal, and they're variocams tensioners, so they remain tight during the process of what we've been up to here. So you remove these 3 chain tensioners, and if you're not sure how, I think I caught at least 2 of them on camera before. Just go back and watch some of the other videos in this process, which I guess at this point I'm supposed to say, if you like what we're doing here, if you could hit like and subscribe. Take you through the rest of the build of this 2.7 liter swap. I know a lot of this is not specific to the swap itself. It is simply preparing a used engine, what amounts to be a fairly expensive used engine, to be installed. Which I would be doing this if it were a 2.5 or if it were a 2.7 like we're doing. Just some things that you want to do while you have the opportunity, kind of the while it's in there mentality. We are going to put this O-ring in a little bit of engine oil and just simply slide it down the tensioner. I can get one of my 10 thumbs to quit working here. And then just make sure the O-ring is well lubricated. And then you have these, again, bought these parts from Pelican Parts. They're a couple bucks a piece, and not worth the pain and aggravation that it would be to crawl back under the car and try to fix. Just think about it. If this O-ring were bad on the old one, you would be, first of all, you probably could do it with the exhaust in, but you get the car up in the air, you would have to hold the chains steady, which means removing whatever you need to access these, which means removing the green plugs, which means trying to install them with the engine in the vehicle, which I have to imagine is exponentially harder than to do it on an engine stand or on a table as we have it here. So, for a couple dollars, just you got to use common sense on a couple things. Are we replacing all the oil pumps and everything? No, we're not doing that, because I feel that if something like that were to go bad, it would be a major repair either way. So anyway, tensioner, new O-ring on it's lubricated, new aluminum washer for the seal. We're going to go up in, I can feel it grab the chain, and then it's going to take a little pressure. Maybe a little more than I have. Okay. Well, wasn't quite expecting that. That was a little more difficult than I thought. But what I simply was doing was applying pressure to the spring-loaded portion of the tensioner to get at least a couple of threads started in the process. Once it started, it's just a matter of screwing it in. And quite honestly, once it started, it's a matter of getting the socket on it and screwing it in. So we're just going to bottom these out for right now. I'm sure that there's a torque spec on them. I'm sure this is the part of the process that puts the most stress on the timing chain, pulling them back to tight, all the while keeping the rotating pieces in place. So maybe I will grab another tensioner. I'll just take you through that real quick. This is probably the one I should have filmed, but I was, if you watch the other videos, I was a little worried about the one that came out of here. There was some corrosion on it in a place that shouldn't have corrosion. So I wanted to look into it a little bit further and took a good look at it, decided that it's probably nothing to be concerned about. Obviously, with the oil pan removal, we'll be able to see any other emerging issues. Hoping we don't come across too much to do there. Again, just take your pick, flat blade screwdriver, what have you, and just pull that O-ring up out of the groove. Slide the O-ring off. That O-ring actually felt a little more brittle than the other one did. Kind of reinforces my decision to do these. Not that it needed much reinforcement, because it just makes so much more sense than not. And you have 3 tensioners on these engines. They all use the same O-ring. They all use the same sealing washer, the aluminum washer. The only difference that I was able to see is the tensioners themselves are a little bit different, not interchangeable. The one that we just installed had a couple of oil grooves, what I assume are oil grooves, cut into it. This one does not have those. And then the third one is a different animal altogether. It has a longer spring on the end of it, and just different. So make sure you mark them when you go to remove them. You will thank yourself immensely. Clean that off a little bit. Like it wasn't too bad to begin with, but unless this just slides in. And this one may be a little more difficult because I'm going to be pushing was not more difficult. All right. Pause to find my socket. There it is. Slide that on there. And then we have 1.5-inch drive somewhere. Excuse me. I'm probably going to have to edit this out. You don't want to watch me look around my messy shop for a wrench. There we go. You know, thinking about this, I would probably wouldn't hurt to put a dab of assembly lube onto the end of the tensioners, just simply to where it engages the pivot to make a smoother transition. So anyhow, going to pause you there for just a moment. This next one's tricky, so I think I'm going to film it too, but I want to get the old one cleaned up, and there's nothing interesting to that other than brake clean and blue towels. So we'll turn you off here and then come back when we're ready for the install portion. Okay, this was the one that gave me the most fits coming out, just simply due to the limited room and partially due to access to the proper tools. We won't worry about that just yet. So anyway, I found this big wrench fits about as well as anything into the space here. And again, you have to apply some pressure to this tensioner to get it to start. You get about a 32nd of a turn out of it. But, you know, what are you going to do? It's going in. Just take your time. I don't need this engine running anytime soon. Now, the torque on this one may be a little more difficult. Once we look up the torque specs, probably post them just in word form on the videos, because I'm going to have to go back and torque the first two that I put in. But you know, obviously if you had a 32 millimeter open end wrench, and you could make pretty short work of this one. I do not have that one here. I have it in my toolbox at work. It's, again, half-hour round trip to work to go get it. I know this one works, so this is the one we'll use. The good thing about this is once this is done, we're fabbing up a rear main seal tool out of a piece of 3-inch ABS plastic drainage cap, and we're gonna put a new rear main in, and after that this engine goes on the stand for oil pan and water pump and coolant switch and a couple of the other goodies that I bought, but that should be all very quick. One video, I bought an air oil separator, I bought a new oil cooler for it, thermostat, water pump, and my temperature switch is incorrect. The O2 went to a different style. I think I addressed that in one of the other videos, but basically that's the style on the 99, and the O2 uses a 4 flat connector, and they don't agree with one another. So what we have is This one here, if you can focus on it, 4 flat, just screws right in. Same passage, same threads. Very easy to fix. About $35, I think, for the part, so not a huge deal. But it does nickel and dime you after time. So anyhow, that's going to be it for the IMS video. We have the tensioners back in, the chains are all tight. The only thing I'm going to do off camera is remove the cam locks, probably install the green plugs on camera when I go to do the water pump. Let you see what the process is for that. It's very easy, simple process. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the like button. If you want to see further and see how this project turns out, please hit the subscribe button. Have a great day. Thanks.